Welcome to theCUBE's continuing coverage of Splunk conf21. I'm Lisa Martin. I have a couple guests here with me next talking about Splunk, HPE, and Deloitte. Please welcome Kacy Clarke, Managing Director and Chief Architect at Deloitte, and Elias Algna, Master Technologist, Office of the North American CTO at HPE. Guys, welcome to the program. Great to have you.
Thank you, Lisa. It's great to be here.
Thanks, Lisa.
Here we still are in this virtual world. The last 18 months, so many challenges, some opportunities, some silver linings, but some of the big challenges that organizations are facing, this rapid shift to remote work, the rapid acceleration in digital transformation, ransomware up nearly 11x in the first half of this year alone, SolarWinds. Talk to me about some of the challenges that organizations are facing and how you're helping them deal with that. Kacy, we'll start with you.
So most of our clients, as we move to virtual, have accelerated their adoption of multiple cloud platforms, moving into AWS, into Azure, into Google. And one of the biggest challenges is in this distributed environment, they still have significant workloads on-prem. Part of the workloads are in, Office 365. Part of them are in Salesforce. Part of them, they're moving into AWS or big data workloads into Google. How do you make this all manageable from both a security point of view, and accelerating threats make that much worse, but also from an operational point of view? How do I do application performance management when I have workloads in the cloud calling APIs back on-prem into the mainframe? How do I make it operationally when I have tons of containers and virtual machines operating out there? So the importance of Splunk and good log management, observability, along with all the security management and the security logs and being able to monitor your environment in this complex distributed environment is absolutely critical. And it's just going to get more complex as we get more distributed.
Elias, how can companies, given the complexity, how can companies with these complicated IT landscapes get ahead of some of these issues?
One of the things that we've really focused on in making sure that you're getting ahead of those is, we work with organizations like Splunk and Deloitte, is how do we collect all of the data, not just a little bit of it? Splunk's help and Deloitte are helping us look across all of those places, but we want to make sure that we can really ingest everything that's out there, and then let the tools like Splunk then use all of that data. We've found a lot of organizations really struggle with that, and with the retention of that data. It's been a challenge. So those are things that we've really worked hard on figuring out with organizations out there, how to ingest, retain, and then modernize how they do those things at the same time.
I was reading the Splunk State of Security report, which they surveyed over 500 security leaders. I think it was over 9 global economies. And they said 78% of security and IT leaders worry, 78%, that they're going to be hit by something like SolarWinds, that style of attack. Splunk saying security is a data problem, but also looking at all this talk about being on the defensive and preventing attacks, the threat landscape escaping. Companies also have to plan for growth. They have to plan for agility. How do you both help them accomplish both at the same time? Kacy, we'll start with you.
Well, fundamentally on the security front, you start with security by design. You're designing the logging, the monitoring, the defenses into the systems as they're being designed up front, as opposed to adding them when you get to a UAT or production environment. So security by design, much like DevOps and DevSecOps, is pushing that attitude towards security back earlier in the process, so that each of the systems, as we're developing them, have the defenses that are needed and have the logging that are embedded in them and the standards for logging, so that you don't just get a lot of different kinds of data, you get the data you actually need coming into the system, and then setting up the correlation of that data so you can identify those threats early, through AI, through predictive analytics. You get to identify things more quickly. It's all about reducing cycle times and getting better information by designing it in from the beginning.
Designing it in from the beginning, that shifting left. Elias, what are your thoughts about this? Kind of enabling that defense, designing it in upfront, and also enabling organizations to have the agility to grow and expand.
Yeah, sort of reminded of something our friends with the Blue Oval used to say in manufacturing: quality isn't inspected, it's built in, right? And to Kacy's point, you have to build it in. We've definitely worked with Deloitte to do that, and we've set up systems so that they have true agility. We've done things like containerize Splunk with Kubernetes, work with object storage. A lot of the new modern technologies that maybe organizations aren't quite accustomed to yet or still getting on board with. And so we wrap those up in our HPE GreenLake managed services so that we can provide those things to organizations that maybe aren't ready for them yet, but the threat landscape is such that you have to be able to do those things. If you're not, orchestrating these thousands and thousands of containers with something like Kubernetes, it becomes such a manual and labor-intensive process. And so that labor-intensive, non-automated process, that's the thing that we're trying to remove.
Well, and that's an inhibitor to growth, right? Number one there. Let's go ahead and dig into the HPE Deloitte Splunk solution. Kacy, I'm going to go back over to you. Talk to me about kind of the catalyst for developing the solution, and then we'll dig into it in terms of what it's delivering.
So Deloitte has had long-term partnerships with both HPE and Splunk, and we're very excited about working together with them on this solution. The HPE GreenLake, which is hardware by subscription, the flexibility of that platform, the cost effectiveness of the platform, be able to run workloads like Splunk on it that are constantly changing. You have peaks and valleys depending on, how much work you're doing, how many logs are coming in. And so being able to expand that environment quickly through containerized architecture on Splunk, which is what we worked on, with the HPE GreenLake team and also with Splunk, so that we can federate the workloads and everything that's going on-prem with workloads that are in the cloud, and doing it very flexibly with the HPE on-prem platform, as well as Splunk on Google and Azure and Splunk Cloud. And then having one pane of glass that goes across all of it has been very exciting. We're getting lots of interest in the demo of what we've done on the GreenLake platform, and the partnership has been going great.
That single pane of glass is so critical. We talked about cloud complexity a few minutes ago. Customers are dealing with so many different applications. They're now in this hybrid multi-cloud world that's probably only going to proliferate. Elias, talk to me about HPE's perspective and how you're going to help reduce the cloud complexity that customers in every industry are facing.
Yeah, so within the HPE GreenLake umbrella of portfolio, we have set up our Emerald container platform, for example, our GreenLake management services. We bring all these things together in a way that really can accelerate applications, that can make the magic that Deloitte does work underneath. And so when our friends at Deloitte go and build something, someone has to bring that to life, has to run it for our customers. And so that's what HPE GreenLake does. And then we do that in a way that fundamentally aligns to the business cycles that go on. And so we think of cloud as an operating model, not necessarily just a physical destination. And so we work on-prem, colo, public, hybrid, and GreenLake spans across all of those and can bring together in a way that really helps customers. We've seen so many times they have these silos and islands of data. You've got data being generated in the cloud. Well, you need Splunk in the cloud. You've got data generated in EMEA. Well, you've got Splunk in EMEA. And so Deloitte's really done some great things to help us put that together. And then we underpin that with the GreenLake management services, with our software and our infrastructure to make it all work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Elias, one of the areas that you just mentioned is one of the hottest trends that we've noticed out there. A lot of clients, with the competition for skilled resources out there on the engineering side and operations, are looking at managed services as an option to building, their own technology, hiring their own team, running it themselves. And the work that we do with, both on the security side as well as operations, to provide managed services for our clients in collaboration with companies like HPE and running of the GreenLake platforms, as well as Splunk Cloud. Those combined services together and delivered as a managed service to our clients is an exciting trend out there that is increasingly seen as very cost effective for our clients.
Saving costs is key. Kacy, I want to get your perspective on what you think differentiates this solution, the technology alliance. What are the differentiators in this from Deloitte's lens?
So bringing the expertise of a company like HPE and the flexibility and expandability of the GreenLake platform and the containerization that they've done with Esmeralda, it's bringing that cloud-like automation and virtual and flexibility to the on-prem and the hybrid cloud solution, combined with Splunk, who is rapidly expanding not only what they do in the security space with a constantly changing security landscape out there, but also in observability, application performance management, AI ops, fully automated and integrated response to operational events that are out there. So HPE is doing what they do really well and adapting to this new world. Splunk is constantly changing their products to make it easier for us to go after those operational issues. And Deloitte is coming in with both the industry and the technical experience to bring it all together. How do you log the right things? How do you identify, the real signal versus the noise out there, when you're collecting massive amounts of log data? How do you make it actionable? How can you automate those actions? So by bringing together all three of these firms together, we can bring a much better, much more effective solutions to our clients in much shorter timeframes.
As shorter timeframes are key, given that one of the things we've learned in the last 18 months is that real time is really business critical for companies in every industry. Elias, I want to get your perspective from a technology lens. Talk to me about the differentiators here of what this solution, this three-way alliance brings to your customers.
Yeah, sure thing. We've done a lot of work with Deloitte and with Intel also on performance optimization, which is key for any application. And that gets to what I mentioned earlier of bringing more data in. Some of the work that we've done with Intel, we've been able to accelerate the ingest rate of Splunk by about 17 times, which is pretty incredible. And that allows us to do more or do more with less. And that can help reduce the cost. We've also done a lot of work on the setup side. So there's a lot of complexities in running a big enterprise application like Splunk. It does a lot of great things, but with that comes some complications for sure. And so a lot of the work that we've done is to help really make this production ready at scale, disaster tolerant, and bring all of those things together. And that it requires a fair amount of work on the back end to make sure that we can do that at scale and to be to run in a way that businesses of significant size can take advantage of these things without having to worry about what happens if I lose a data center or what happens if I lose a region, and to do those things with absolute assurance.
That's critical. Kacy, I have a question for you. How will this solution help facilitate one of the positives that we've seen during the last 18 months, and that is the strengthening of the IT security relationship? What are your thoughts there?
I think one of the important things here is the standardization and automation of what we're bringing together, so that security can monitor all the different things that are being configured, because they can go in and look at the automation that's creating them. So we have a very dynamic environment now with the new cloud-based and virtualized environments. So going in and manually configuring anything anymore is just not possible, not when you're managing tens of thousands of servers out there. So security working together very closely with operations and collaborating on that automation so that the managed services are configured right from the beginning. As we talked about security by design, operations by design in the beginning. It's that early collaboration and that shift left that is giving us the very close collaboration that results in good telemetry, good visibility, good reaction times on the other end.
That collaboration is something that we've also seen as really a key theme that's emerged, I think, from all of us in every industry in the last 18 months. Elias, I want to punt the last question to you, and that is, where can customers go to learn more information? How do they get started with the solution?
A great way to get started is to reach out to our partners like Deloitte. They can help you on that journey. HPE is there. Of course, hpe.com. We have a number of white papers, collateral presentations, reference architectures, you name it, it's out there. But really, every organization is unique. Every challenge that we come up with always requires a little bit of hard thinking, and so that's why we have the partnership.
To be able to work with customers and collaborate, I'll say, to really identify what their challenges are, how they help them in this very dynamic, no doubt, continuing to be dynamic market. Thank you both so much for joining me, talking to me about what Deloitte, Splunk, and HPE are doing, how you're helping customers address that cloud complexity from the security lens, the operations lens. We appreciate your time.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thanks, Elias.
For my guests, I'm Lisa Martin. You're watching theCUBE's coverage of Splunk conf21.